What else it didn't mention? You know what else it didn't? God damn it, man. You cannot do it. Why?
Get ready, boys and girls. Patch 8.3 brings big class changes, and Ian has Acosta's hints at a much wanted end to Titanforging. This, together with brand new item effects coming to the new patch, and oh my god, Visions of Ny'Alotha has a lot to offer, and you'll get to take a look at the Ny'Alotha Raid bosses, plus the new Titan assaults and horrific visions. So sit back, relax, and watch until the end, cause we have a big one today on Cooldown, baby, your weekly WoW news show. Hello there,
How's it
and
going?
welcome back to the show on Cooldown, baby, with patch 8.3 Hyperinos. Jesus, we have a lot of information coming our way.
Man. It's a lot of stuff, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh boy, there's a lot of shit to talk about, and we cannot cover it all, but we do cover all the juicy stuff. So what are we going through here?
Man, we're going through the new class changes, checking all the new bosses in the raid, and can we finally say bye-bye to Titanforging, man?
Oh man, I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping so. It's
been a long time.
I mean, I do touch upon that a little bit in the video. It's interesting to see, but there's not much details on it, and it's not on the PTR just yet.
We can only hope.
Yeah, but hey, man, they didn't mention Sylvanas. They didn't. I mean, we have the spoilers, right?
Okay, spoilers warning, guys. I'm not going to tell you everything, but there is a specific dialogue that has been data mined showing that nobody knows where Sylvanas is at the end of us defeating Ny'Alotha. So it's clear that we won't see her at all, meaning that she's going to be in the next expansion. And boy, man, the next expansion.
Who knows? When next expansion, this is the thing, right? They kind of threw everything they got on 8.3 with Ian.
It's a lot of stuff.
And PTR rolling stuff, you know, like almost every day, like new information data mine. So
BlizzCon.
what does that mean? Like BlizzCon?
I'm thinking BlizzCon is going to be super hyped for WoW, man. I think we're going to have some pretty cool. I mean, they have to upstage this. They have to upstage.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They will not have any other patch to talk about. It's going to be all exclusively on the new expansion.
9.0 shit, good.
But anyways, guys, it's going to be an awesome show. We're going to go through a lot of details in, you know, horrific visions, the Titan assaults, the class changes, the item effects, you know, a lot of stuff for you guys to know and possibly speculate a little bit on the raid bosses. Who knows? Yeah, and what you can speculate or not speculate, you know, short information is when you subscribe to our channel, there's a little bell thing that we sound like broken records every time, but man, does it help a lot. So if you would please just click that bell thingy. And that's it. Let's start it off. Let's start it off.
Let's go. Bye. First things first, guys. We are getting some major class changes in 8.3. Only to a few, but enough that this could easily be one of the hottest topic for any endgame raider and mythic key pusher. Sorry, PvP junkies. Nothing for you at the moment, but I am rooting for you, honestly. Starting with the balanced druid, because this is the exact order Blizzard made their post as well. We have some nerfs to Moonfire and Sunfire, specifically a 10% damage reduction to their overall damage. This is supposedly offset, although we will talk about it, by the Azurite trait nerfs affecting said spells, High Noon and Power of the Moon. Both these traits have had their damage increased by 11%. The preliminary math done to this by the Space Chicken community shows that the nerfs in single target are very minor, and we would lose about 700 DPS approximately. The traits being buffed hardly matters as far as my sims go. I simmed both traits against the current meta traits, which, hint hint, do not include either of the two being buffed, and both sim 3 to 5% less in both single target and AoE. The part that will likely affect us more will be AoE and multi-dotting in general, and looking at the class changes made overall, it seems Blizzard wants to put the dot specs down. The issue with balance is that it already has subpar AoE damage when compared with similar top performers that can do both, and with the nerf, we are losing more in AoE. Overall, the Dreamgrove community, myself included, feel pretty good about balance in 8.3, but it remains to be seen if more nerfs are coming. Next up, Frost Mage. Boy oh boy, we are so glad we made a Frost Mage guide showcasing how Ice Lance is no longer meta, and there you go, Blizzard is buffing Ice Lance by 20%. To be fair, it was pretty silly that casting Ice Lance will net you an overall DPS loss, so the damage is very good. Oh? What is this? Brewmaster nerfs? Can you believe that the #1 raid tank throughout the entirety of BFA and Season 3 in Mythic Plus is getting shafted? Alright, settle down. This shouldn't surprise anybody. Although I am a bit worried. The strength of the Brewmaster lies in the stagger mechanic which they designed and now cannot balance. The nerfs are minor to the stamina, stagger, and the high tolerance talent. One very important change is the Gift of the Ox passive that spawned too many orbs more than was intended because of bad scaling with the stamina. From what the community seems to think is that this bug first appeared when the stamina was nerfed initially in BFA, now it's nerfed once again. I for one was hoping to drink more in the next patch, but the way things are going, people seem to be scared of playing their favorite, coincidentally meta spec, because it could be nerfed in future patches. And as a result, people playing underperforming specs are left hopeless because Blizzard is quicker to nerf top specs than to buff bottom specs. And we haven't even reached Shadow Priests, oh my god. But some good stuff. Mistweavers are getting a buff to Rising Mist, giving players hope of the potential Fistweaving build coming back into the game, as well as changes to how Life Cocoon is scaling, which are not currently present on the PTR, but are supposed to make Mistweavers more viable and give them more builds to play with. Windwalkers are getting their single target buffed with a 25% increase to Sun Kick damage and a 10% to Blackout Kick. Windwalkers have been struggling in the mythic scene on solo bosses, and this is basically a response to that. Holy Paladins getting nerfed because Glimmer was still broken and the healer community was QQing, rightfully so, about the viability of the spec. Glimmer basically affects only 8 total targets now, which will come into play in raids since the cooldown stacking. You would be able to do more than 8 glimmers, maybe even double that. Along with Holy Paladins, Discipline Priests have received some changes, essentially addressing the top performing healers in raids. The Atonement has been nerfed to provide less healing while Mastery has been buffed. This particular change, as well as with the Holy Paladins, scales down raid healing but maintains dungeon healing at a decent level. And Shadow Priests. Listen, Shadow Priests, if you're watching this, sit down and take a deep breath. Remember that time when in 8.0 you were shit? And then Blizzard said, sorry guys, we gonna buff you now, okay? And you were gods again? And then got nerfed? And then got nerfed again? And after that, nerfed again? Well, RIP, you're getting nerfed again. Yep, I love how the balance seems to be. It makes me totally not afraid to pick a main and be comfortable it will perform in the next patch. So, Auspicious Spirits is nerfed to 25% bonus damage, down from 50, which was down from 75%, which was down from 100%. So, what's going on here? Apparently the issue is how the spec scales with the Chorus of Insanity trait, which, oh, would you look at that? It's getting nerfed by 25%. And to further fuel the dot class's nerfs, Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch will have their damage scaled down to 8%. By 8% actually. Jesus, I feel sorry for you guys, only because you have been nerfed for 3 patches consistently and without fail. Good luck in the future, I suppose. Affliction Warlocks is also nerfed on their Death Bolt talent, having it scaled 20% down from 30% of remaining dot damage on the target. To be fair, this row needed attention because god damn they made some pretty shitty talents here. But fret not, because they are not buffing Nightfall, a very underwhelming and underperforming talent affecting one of the deadest of weight I have seen in any rotation of the 30 plus specs I have played in the last year. No, they're not even buffing Drain Soul, which has been a net DPS loss simply by taking it since the expansion was released. No, they are nerfing Death Bolt. Listen guys, I'm just ranting because this is all I know how to do. I'm not a game designer, so I have no clue how this will all make sense and cannot presume otherwise. But Blizzard knows, right? They know this, right? Right guys? But aside all of this, certain essences are being buffed to hopefully bring them back in line with the other choices here. And I can actually see this happening. One example is Vision of Perfection proc rate increased by 12%, which almost offsets balanced druids in single target by giving them back something like 500 DPS. Not to mention it will buff a bit specs like Prot Warriors and Demo Locks, who are already using this as their major. Overall, the changes should be good in theory, and don't mind my rant. I just like to bash on Blizzard whenever they nerf shit because they are the ones who said fun is more important than balance, and that they would rather buff underperforming specs than nerf the otherwise.
Call me nostalgic, but man do I miss tier sets. Maybe they'll bring those back with the new expansion, but for now, as far as patch 8.3 is concerned, you cannot help but notice Ian's contained and bottled enthusiasm when he said this.
We have to wonder, is it possible that these assaults on Titan Forges might somehow change the nature of Titan Forging? This is something we are still discussing, and we are working on a plan that we'll be able to roll out in the very near future, but we're excited about the idea of embracing the old god threat this time around to replace Titan Forging with something a bit different, something a bit more twisted and corrupt, that also ideally works to preserve the value of item level and the correlation between doing difficult content and getting the best rewards.
You have to admit, the community has been asking for the removal of the slot machine mechanic for ages now, and by no means does this imply they will remove it completely. Well, he does mention that Titanforging will be replaced with something that is all god themed, so more twisted and corrupt, but, and this is the important part, something that will preserve the correlation of the item level and the correlation between the content difficulty you do. To be real with you, this kind of is already in place, but hey, I think both me and you would be happy if they at least have some chances to add these cool stuff to gear while having the item level in place and not change. This would be a great start and steer in the right direction as long as they don't exaggerate with these effects and make them too unbalanced. Flavorful stuff like we saw in the Crucible of Flame, mini raid would be an interesting thing to have proc on your gear. One thing is clear though, while we don't have it to be tested on the PTR yet, this definitely shows that they are finally listening to player feedback, and hopefully patch 8.3 will be the start of a new dawn where we say bye-bye to Titanforging and welcome a much more solid and rewarding item mechanic. P.S. Ian, I'm still waiting for those PvP vendors, man.
And since we are on the topic of items, Blizzard is doing more Kiss Curse mechanics. Is Kiss Curse a fetish, Flame, you ask? Why, no dear viewer, the Kiss Curse mechanic refers to a bonus you get with a potential negative that can be very damaging. The rings have the usual stats with a 2% bonus to damage and healing and a specific side effect that can be insignificant or freaking crazy. One ring spawns a little void monster that will attack you, and a hit from it took away over 50k of my HP. It's easy to dodge in a vacuum, but add encounters, mechanics and potential eye level scaling with the ring and I can see it being nuts. One other effect is that getting overhealed will put a healing deny shield on you for 10 seconds, which is crazy because in Raze the chances to be overhealed are very high and this hardly seems worth it. Last one I wanted to mention, and honestly one of the most interesting ones, is the Scroll of Truth. Gradually, a scroll will pop near you, although I had difficulty spotting it sometimes, not sure if the animation of it is buggy, but the scroll will fire shadow bolts at your face, and they apply a stacking debuff, and if it reaches 6 stacks, you get feared. It's hilarious and also begs the question, is the 2% damage gain worth it, especially for non-DPS classes? Waiting on more info as to how and where you can get these.
And speaking of awesome things to wait for, miss me?
The fuck?
Listen guys, did you know that Ajara and Sylvanas actually planned—
Hey Orc, we found Mankirk's wife.
Really? Well, fuck this, I'm getting some poon!
This is all the initial iteration, so things could change. My overall impression is that the drawback is larger than the upside, although I could see the rings being made to matter in Mythic raiding where every little bit of damage counts. I do hope the bonus will be bigger once the release is live though.
Alright, crazy new gear is one thing, but we have to dig a bit into these features patch 8.3 is throwing at us. First off, we have the Titan Assaults, which implied that in Uldum and Vale of Eternal Blossoms, places that have Titan facilities that could help us against the Old Gods, there are assaults taking place from N'Zoth's minions and generals. Going in there with my 435 item level paladin made me feel weak and the content didn't seem easy at all. I mean, I died a lot. The mechanics of these assaults are simple at a first glance. You basically have to fill the bar to repel the threat, but when you start to explore around, you find that there is so much to do. There are puzzles to solve, rares to kill, daily quests, hell, even powering up a big-ass ivory watcher and controlling him to stomp enemies all around. And at the end, you have to kill the big baddie so you can get your reward. And you want to finish these Titan assaults for that reward, which will contain 50 coalescing visions and 150 echoes of oblivion. The echoes are a currency that buy gear from a brand new vendor located in the Heartforge room. That with a bunch of other currencies which we will cover in a future video. You need the coalescing visions to be able to combine them and create vessels of horrific visions, which are needed to get into the second major feature of the patch, which is horrific visions. This one you can access from the Chamber of Heart, where now you have portals to Ny'Alotha's version of Stormwind and Orgrimmar, an alternate reality version of the cities if he succeeds in his attempt of corrupting the whole world and its population. Now, at first you will need 400 coalescent visions to craft one vessel, which is enough to send you in your first vision. So, a couple of Titan assaults need to be finished first before being even able to get in. The combined number will raise higher and higher to a max of 1600. Now, before you go, you will have Wrathion to give you a legendary cloak once again, to help aid you in there. Not gonna lie, my friend, the first time you go in the vision, you won't be able to do much, as the whole thing revolves around the sanity bar you have shown here. And this is where the legendary cloak ties in. So far, the only thing about this cloak is that it provides sanity loss reduction and a bunch of stats. Doesn't really feel like a legendary, but it's early PTR, so let's focus on what we have. You upgrade your cloak with horrific visions, which we don't know yet where you get these, but they get this in order to increase its item level and the percentage of sanity loss reduction. Now, once you get into the vision, your main objective is to kill Ny'Alotha's servant, which in Orgrimmar is Thrall, and in Stormwind is Illyria. And here, interesting enough, there is a little bit of a scene with her killing Turalyon and then taking Arathar, their son, and throwing him into the void. The interesting aspect in this vision is that there are bonus objectives in parts of the cities, and doing them grants more chests at the end, while also having the commanders pass on their mechanics to Illyria or Thrall after you defeat them. So, in a sense, you can choose how hard your final fight will be. If you decide to first do all the bonus objectives and kill the commanders, then at the end, Thrall or Illyria will have 4 or 5 more mechanics from those kills that you will have to tackle, making the whole adventure much more challenging. Now, why do you want to do these visions? Well, at the end you get chests similar to how it was with the Wither training, and these chests give you another currency called Corrupted Memento. You use these in a brand new skill tree at the Titan Research Archive, unlocking new traits to help you do better and better in your runs. So far, the talent tree looks a bit unfinished, but it does seem to have choices for either group play or solo play. The chest will also drop Orb of Vision, yes, another currency, which from what I've seen, it can be used to buy gear. All in all, the visions will be required so you can farm currency to get better gear, at least at this stage. But this is just the first build of the patch, and it does feel that a lot of these are not yet linked between one another, and a lot of context is missing. Sure, the visions look and feel great. The Titan assaults can offer some variety, but you would be right to be concerned if they force you into a grind fest once again in order to achieve notable results. The results of the legendary cloak, and Ian said that we will need it to fight against Ny'Alotha, but so far is just another stat stick with a utility to be used in visions. There are no quests, and a lot of the currency cannot be used, so you can rest assured there's a lot more to come for us to test. And Jesus, man, the Chamber of Heart felt like goddamn Bank of America with all these currencies being thrown left and right. All in all, expect more videos from us going in deeper into the systems that are coming in Visions of Ny'Alotha, but so far, we enjoyed the gameplay.
And in today's comment of the day, we have the wonderful, the empathic, the knowledgeable Edward Burke. And he said,
I engage with this content. It takes years of study, decades of patience, mountains of empathy, and extensive YouTube algorithm research to understand that our channel can only grow with beautiful souls like Eddie Boy here, who is always ready to write a comment, sometimes different than a mathematical symbol, only to let YouTube know that the videos we make are being engaged. Thank you, dear friend. Thank you for understanding.
And we have a first look at the raid. 12 bosses, yo. 12 bosses. Now that's a lot of bosses, and also, warning, major spoilers ahead. There are a few individuals on the list who I have zero clues who they are, so scratch those. The first boss of the raid is Corrupted Rathian. I personally have a problem with Blizzard's need to corrupt existing NPCs and make them raid bosses. It has been done so many times before. And to be honest, the latest entries in the "oh, this guy is corrupted so you get to fight him" list have been very underwhelming. Rathian is an interesting character that has schemed, studied, and planned against the old gods for quite some time, but it was all for naught because he is following in his father's footsteps, aka predictable, aka what everyone thought behind the scenes, most likely since the character was introduced in the game, and it's nice to see the storytellers do not fail to surprise us. Admittedly, the fight could end up in any number of ways. We could free Rathian from the corruption, similar to how the speculated leak had us fight Anduin originally. The dragon models look dope as fuck though, and I really want to fight a cool dragon. I was just hoping Rathian would be more than a poor excuse for lazy writing. Prove me wrong, goddammit! The next one on the list is Ra Den. Ra Den is a Titan Keeper that was a boss in the Throne of Thunder on Heroic because Leishan broke his mind while torturing him, and now he too is corrupted by N'Zoth. Was Blizzard running out of characters? Anyway, one of the most interesting entries on the list is Il'gynoth, the Emerald Nightmare boss we defeated in Legion, whose whisper got so many nerds speculating and foreshadowing certain events that already transpired in BFA. It was probably inevitable that we would meet him, since in Legion his last words were, "N'Zoth, I journey to Ny'Alotha," meaning Ny'Alotha is essentially a twisting nether-like place, but for the void spawns of the old gods where they cannot die outside of. There are a lot of cool Void Dragon and Cathroxy bosses that look sick, and Blizzard has rarely failed in their raid department as far as art, mechanics, and general encounters go. Not to mention Azshara is part of a raid boss encounter, and lastly, possibly a throwback to Deathwing and his fight back in Dragon Soul, we have N'Zoth as two of the last bosses, the first being the carapace of N'Zoth, while lastly N'Zoth the Corruptor himself. No doubt Blizzard knowing about the meme and making sure we would fight the actual N'Zoth as the last boss. Although from the dungeon journal description, the carapace of N'Zoth seems to be more of an entry point to the god himself and not his actual carapace. But if you really read, it says that this is the core of the Black Empire, the seat of N'Zoth's power within the body of a god. So we are inside N'Zoth? I'm actually hyped for this. I am bashing Blizzard a bit on this lore choices, but that's based off of an incomplete dungeon journal with incomplete models and shit. I'm eagerly to be proven wrong, so I can eat my words because I'm honestly hungry for 8.3. Oh man, there's so much stuff we talked about today, and so much more yet to come.
I cannot take it.
Guys, you better know that we're gonna have more videos up and ready for you guys, and
it's 100%, man. It's 100%, and I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but Jesus,
like
man.
Azshara.
What about Azshara?
Well, Azshara was changed in the Inquisitor, I think, boss fight. And
oh, yeah.
There's been, okay, spoilers warning, but you probably already knew this.
It's in the Ian presentation.
Yeah, but also, like, what I meant is the dialogue that was leaked. Apparently, she was colluding with Sylvanas to get us into Ny'Alotha in 8.2, and they planned on betraying N'Zoth, but more on that in a future video. Yeah,
so Sylvanas and Azshara were in cahoots?
Yeah, man.
God damn.
It's a lot of cool lore there that, you know, maybe we'll cover in a video.
In the video with Ian, she's like all chained up and stuff.
Yeah, because she betrayed N'Zoth.
But do you think she will help us at some point? Would that be a possibility?
That would be interesting if she could join the fights. Although Sylvanas did tell her to kill us once we freed N'Zoth, so maybe not.
I don't know. There's so much stuff I can barely take it, but you know, it's definitely, we can all agree this will be a huge patch. No doubt about it.
It's gonna be this big.
But how? What do you think about this idea of them reusing old content? I mean, I looked on a lot of the Reddit and forums, and people are complaining, some of them, about the fact that there's no
Yeah,
new
but
zones.
there's always going to be 2 sounds. But why aren't we using the all new zones? And to be really fair with you guys, the Ny'Alotha concept is basically like a parallel version of our world. And what better way to do that is by just using the zones that we're familiar with and transforming them, seeing how the void and the corruption can change and impact is like. And you've done a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, man. They always try to reuse the old continents for, you know, a bunch of different mechanics. Like they started with World Quest and the class changes, class quest lines in Legion and stuff. But now it really feels, first of all, logical, and it's smartly done. It doesn't feel lazy. So if you do Titan assaults, like the major ones, not the small Mogu or Amotet ones, like the big ones with Ny'Alotha, you can feel the old god presence, you know, in the architecture, in the spells, in the mobs.
No? Tentacles?
Yeah, tentacles, a lot of purple shit. It feels good. If you go to the visions, that's even more impactful because everyone is corrupted over there. And apart from all of the visual stuff, which is great and does, you know, get you into the atmosphere, the sounds, man, it adds to the atmosphere. It's really like I play with all the volume up. It's ridiculously cool. All in all, this is going to be amazing. The only concern I have, and I think you probably have it too, because they're tradition, the grind fest. It does appear, at least now on the PTR, that the stuff you're required to do to be viable implies a lot of fucking grind phase, doing a lot of these Titan assaults and horrific visions. So
isn't this like a deja vu that we had in the BFA beta where we talked about, oh my god, this is kind of grindy, and then it actually turned out to be grindy, but it didn't implement a catch-up mechanic. So I'm imagining that there will be a blue post somewhere saying that, oh guys, by the way, you're going to get more Azerite. So that's good, man. But you know what's also better than Azerite?
What? Oh, our Twitch!
Segues! You don't see them coming. You don't see them coming, but they're there. Yeah, guys, we stream 4 times a week. We play both NA and EU with you guys because we're running dungeons and raids. So we invite you to come in, tune, and maybe just talk WoW if you don't really want to play.
Twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. That's the place to be, baby.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget our Patreons. Once again, we salute with much love all of our Patreons, guys. Your monthly support helps a lot. It helps paying the bills, part of the bills over here, and it also covers for some of the uncertainty YouTube has.
Yeah.
So it means the world to us. Thank you so much. If like you're interested in supporting a bit more, just look down in the description. You'll find the Patreon link there. Maybe there's something you like.
There might be something else that they like.
Like what?
Like some of this shit.
Yeah, so we also have merchandise over there, the Marcelian&Online Teespring link with
T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, all that stuff, and some cool new graphics because we did update our graphics level and our logo. You might have seen that.
Yeah, the intro and all of that. So it's a lot of good stuff over there. But all in all, thank you so much for watching. Once again, we'll see y'all on Saturday. We have the stream tomorrow, stream. Right? And Sunday with the new guide.
Yep.
Everything else in the future. So
take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.